Hello, everyone. Welcome to TeloYouth Wednesday morning educational webinar. Today we have Dr. Chris and Dr. Tina on the line. They have a combined 60 years of experience as naturopathic practitioners. They are internationally renowned educators and speakers, and most importantly, they are the formulators of our incredible products, Circadian Serum and TeloYouth. Good morning, Dr. Chris, Dr. Tina.
Good morning, MJ. Good morning, everyone out there.
Good morning, MJ, and yes, good morning to everyone. We hope all is well. Today we're going to have a talk about energy. Who wants more energy? I can just see everyone's hands raising out there. You know, what's so important to know about energy is that a lot of times we don't realize that we're declining in energy. And then one day you wake up and go, gosh, you know what? I just don't have the energy I had like I was in my 20s, you know, or my teens. And so the good news is that you can rebuild your energy, and we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, everyone. There is a big myth out there, and the myth is this: we think that we lose energy as we age. However, we age because we lose the ability to make energy. And this is caused by, you know, so many factors or stressors that start to interfere with our ability to make energy, whether it's toxicity, whether it's, you know, the 5G frequencies or 4G or 3G, whatever we're exposed to, that non-native frequency or radiation that we get exposed to, not eating properly, you know, all of these things start to really affect how our body has the ability to make energy.
Well, one of the keys is really understanding at the core on the cellular level. You'll see that there's all types of signaling, and the signaling happens on the surface of the cell. We refer to that as the brain of the cell. And then inside the cell, you have these very special energy factories called mitochondria. And they can number in the hundreds or even the thousands, depending upon the cell's function. And this cellular function is what's so critical. And you know, the cell is like a tiny little entity of its own, and it has its own repair mechanisms and, you know, all these communication vehicles that have to go on with the inner functions and the outer signaling. And these are the things that we understood as practitioners, Dr. Tina and I, to design unique ingredients, functional foods that facilitate this cellular signaling that goes on. So in this next slide, you're going to see how these little energy factories, these mitochondria that are so critical to our energy and our longevity, not only are they hampered with stress like everything else in the body, stress accelerates aging, but also as we age, we lose the quantity, the volume, the integrity of these mitochondria. So somewhere between 20 and 40, we lose half the number that we have once the body's fully mature in its 20s. And then somewhere between 60 and 80, we lose another 50% of that energy potential. So on this next slide, we're going to just really emphasize the fact that it's the mitochondria that we're supporting with the TeloYouth ingredients. And all the research shows that when you lose mitochondria or you damage or create a dysfunction in the mitochondria, or you shut down their energy communication and capacity, these are the primary factors that make the body lose energy. And we've incorporated within TeloYouth all the ingredients that facilitate not only the repair of the mitochondria, but the actual just increase. And this is what our story is here today. So on this next slide, one of the first ingredients that plays a key role in the repair of the mitochondria is the aloe vera gel extract. And it facilitates the repair by, if you look at the number 2 there and the different functions, the intracellular antioxidants and free radical scavengers. This facilitates that inflammatory process inside the cell, and we allow the cell to, not just only the cell repair itself, but also the mitochondria to repair. And you have immune modulation. This facilitates the repair mechanism. So you see there's multiple benefits that come from the aloe vera gel extract that facilitate, in scientific terms or clinical terms, we refer to it as mitophagy. That's scavenging the dead cells and the dead mitochondria and repairing the ones that are just weak and damaged. And then also the autophagy. Autophagy refers to the cell itself. So all the different dynamics that we introduce with the aloe vera gel and the chaga mushroom actually facilitate this repair and rejuvenation. Dr. Tina.
Well, it's so important, when we're talking about our mitochondria, because, they're those powerhouses of the cell. And when we don't have that energy, that powerhouse in our cell, we don't feel the energy to rejuvenate. We don't feel the energy to actually have, just function during the day. But the other thing that happens is, everything that is made or moves or changes in the body, it does require energy. So we need to really look at how do we support our mitochondria. And when we have a cell that doesn't have any energy, if it's dead and it's in our body, it's a stress to our body. So we want to make sure that our body is cleaning out dead cells, has the energy to do it, has the energy with our mitochondrial to do the actual detoxification. Everything requires energy. And so when we look at this next slide, this is our steroid hormone cascade, the chart. You see at the top cholesterol. How many times have we heard that cholesterol is bad for us? Well, we need the good cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, because when we have that good cholesterol in our body, it allows this different cascade of hormones to really work and function in the body. And so when you look on the left-hand side, a lot of people are stuck. And there's a lot of fear and a lot of stress that's happening right now. And I want you to go down to the lower part of this chart where you see cortisol and aldosterone. When we get locked into that cortisol phase, that's when our fear, our stress, our anxiety is high. When we get locked there, our cholesterol can't go down and cascade over to the right side of the chart, where we make our good hormones that are for youth. And it happens that it's like the cortisol wants to steal all of the good, cholesterol and precursors and keep it on that left-hand side of the chart. And so then what we start to find is that we age quicker, we lose energy faster because our DHEA is not being balanced, our testosterone gets out of balance, our estrogens get back out of balance. And so when we start to take TeloYouth, a lot of this unlocking of that cortisol happens, and the rest of our hormones can come back into balance. Dr. Chris, do you want to mention a few things on this chart as well, if you'd like?
I do. It's so important because, all the systems don't work independently of each other. They all work together. And also they work according to your lifestyle choices. And that cholesterol at the top of the chart, that gets converted by getting out into the sunshine. The sunshine makes vitamin D that we've always heard about, but that vitamin D is a cholesterol hormone. It's another form of a cholesterol conversion. And what you see on the two different cascades, on the fear side and the thriving and rejuvenation side, the side on the left where we handle stress, That's important during the day because we're releasing energy, we're interfacing with life, and the cortisols need to be available and a high during that morning cycle and afternoon cycle. But as the day goes on, it declines, and this is when the melatonin shifts in, and these are the things that signal according to the circadian cycles of the body. So we're living dynamic beings, and it's not static. So you just can't look at a blood test or look at just a single snapshot of what's happening in a moment, because there's so many dynamics and that go on. So the sympathetic side is expressed on the left side. You know, that's the part of the nervous system, and then there's the parasympathetic side that regulates digestion and repair and sleep and all the things that we will continue to talk about here. So you see how important this dance that goes on with the body and how we can support it with lifestyle and the specific ingredients that we've given you with TeloYouth.
So when we have low energy, when our mitochondria is just overwhelmed, our resiliency really drops. We end up having greater stress. We can't handle stress as easily. Our cortisols are increased, and then what happens is we end up with that poor sleep cycle. And that's because when our cortisol is high, our melatonin is low. They're antagonistic. They have to balance each other out. And so we want our melatonin to come high at night, so that we can get into that deep rejuvenating sleep. And if we're locked into that stress cycle, that cortisol cycle, what's going to happen is that it's going to keep us awake at night. We're not going to be able to, number one, go to sleep, or we're not going to get that really deep REM sleep where we're getting into that great rejuvenation. And so when you start to take TeloYouth and the hormones start to come back into balance, it's been clinically proven with the fertilized tissue extract that we can actually unlock the cortisol cycle, help reduce the cortisol cycle so that the melatonin can be produced again. And what happens when we have low energy? And these two things there's such a relationship between these things because the body is so interrelated, as Dr. Chris was mentioning. Our mitochondrial function is also critical in our stem cell activation. When we start to age, when we begin that decline and that aging, and we start to drop in our stem cell activation, you can see that our mitochondrial function drops as well. So what happens is our rejuvenation really drops. It takes longer for our cycles to rejuvenate, our cells to rejuvenate. And then we end up with this loss of energy potential and stem cell production. Dr. Chris, do you have anything to add here?
Well, I think one of the key things that we've just learned in medical science is that one of the ways that stem cells help to rejuvenate the tissue that's been damaged in the body is that the stem cell will donate its own mitochondria to the neighboring cell so that it has the energy to repair itself. So here you're seeing one of the unique dynamics of how stem cells work in coordination with its own mitochondria, donating it to the other cells within the body. So this parallel is very unique, how you see the decline simultaneous there. The curve looks the same, but it's so important to understand again why we designed TeloYouth to not only support the mitochondrial function, but also to increase the stem cell production and the activation that allows for these mitochondria to be available. So take it from here.
And stress it will actually accelerate the decline of your stem cell activation and your mitochondria. So you need to really be aware of being able to handle stress better. We all know our stress is going to be here. We're going to end up with more stressors. It's just how are we going to respond to these stressors, and that's what's going to matter. And that's where TeloYouth really does help, because it helps to balance not only the physiological hormones that are related to stress, but it also really helps with your emotions, calming the emotions, helping to calm the mind. And so it's a very multi-dimensional formula. And one of the other things I'd like to go back and mention about melatonin, how important it is it's produced from the pineal gland, and it's such a powerful antioxidant and antidepressant. It's also an immune system enhancer. So we need to be able to have that melatonin so present, because if it's low, not only do we not get sleep, but our risk factors increase dramatically for DNA damage, and other types of dysfunction in the body. So when we look at TeloYouth, we looked at how do we help activate our stem cells, create more stem cells, release more stem cells. And so we combined 6 very important ingredients that are very synergistic to help create this stem cell support in a bottle. Today's stem cell therapy is so popular because they're finding that it's very effective. And one of the things that we have found throughout the years is that it's not about injecting stem cells into your body. It's about having the right signal molecules, exosomes, that are present in the body to be able to activate those stem cells, because there's a lot of ingredients that are out there in the market that can actually do stem cell release into the bloodstream. And but yet they don't get the instructions that tell them to activate. And that's where the fertilized tissue extract comes into place. So we want to make sure that our bones are healthy, number one, in order to build those big bones and produce the stem cells. We need to make those stem cells in our healthy bones. Then what we're going to do is we're going to release them. And the aloe vera gel extract is an incredible releaser. It releases it 300 times more into the bloodstream than some of the other ingredients on the marketplace. So we have all of these stem cells that are going to various sites, but they need to be told what to do. And that's where the instructions from the fertilized tissue extract actually helps any kind of cell that is in need of repair. Dr. Chris, do you have anything to add?
Just the other ingredient there is the L-arginine, and that's a precursor to growth hormone. So you see how we're not only facilitating the stem cell activity and production, but we're producing the hormones from the endocrine system that specifically facilitate that ability to regenerate and repair. Because again, it's an orchestration. It's not a single nutrient or a single function. They all work together, and so all the systems are supported: the endocrine, the nervous system, as well as the immune system, that make this whole process happen. So just
right.
as a great graphic. Go for it.
Yeah, what's interesting is that everybody has a very different experience when they take TeloYouth, because there are going to be certain areas of your own body, whether it's genetics, the stressors you've been exposed to, your diet and your lifestyle, are you sleeping at night, your hormones, all of these things, because we're so complex, everybody has a different experience. And so when you start to take TeloYouth, you don't know really what to expect. We have some generalizations of people get better sleep because we know we can clinically reduce the cortisols. We know that muscle development is there. It's been clinically proven to help with muscle development. And so, but we don't know what the body's going to do first. And when we're talking about cells in need of repair, everyone has a different story. And so the journey that you will be on when you start to take your TeloYouth is going to be very unique to you. And so when we're talking about this stem cell support in a bottle, you don't have to go have, stem cell injections for tens of thousands of dollars. You can actually repair from the inside out by working with TeloYouth and having a great diet and lifestyle. And we are energy beings first. Dr. Chris, would you like to address that?
Absolutely. One of the things that questions that we get asked as formulators, and especially with our TeloYouth, why the Chaga mushroom? Because mushrooms are really popular now in the nutritional industry, and you see it in a lot of formulations. Because medicinal mushrooms, they have beta glucans, and it's these beta glucans that facilitate the immune response. But we chose the chaga mushroom not just for its beta glucans, but also for its high melanin content. And it's the melanin that gives us this protection against the new stressor, the new environmental impact that comes from the electromagnetic fields in our culture today, the electromagnetic fields that come from the technology. So your computers, your cell phones, your televisions, all the different devices that we use. So before the technology came along, there was the ionizing radiation that came from the sun that we had to protect ourselves from, and that's how the body makes its own, melanin, and that's the tanning pigment that you see on the surface of the skin. But again, as the technology evolved and we started introducing in the medical industry, the X-ray technology and the different types of scanners that we use, we had an increase of the ionizing radiation. And then now in the last, 30 years, we've started to increase the non-ionizing radiation with the technology. So you see that this has a very, very powerful impact on stressing the body on the cellular level. And if you can see in this next slide, we can actually show you the mechanisms, the science that goes behind the destruction of the cell.
Yeah, if I could just mention one thing.
Go ahead.
If I could give you the metaphor of, think about every cell in our body has all of these, thousands of antennae on the outside of our cells. So think of our being, our body as a big, big antenna. And all of these frequencies are just, flying around, in air, in space here. And so we're an antenna. And if you think of 4G, that kind of frequency that we were exposed to, it's like a 2-lane highway. Now that 5G is coming out, it's like an 8-lane highway without speed limits. So we attract these energies with our antenna, and we literally get zapped by this energy. So we need to have this melanin, in our skin to help protect us and block us from some of these frequencies.
Good point. So here's what you see inside this cell. Essentially, this electromagnetic field, the EMFs, come in and they disrupt the cellular function. And the primary dynamic that happens is the electrolyte balance. You have this incredible balance between calcium and magnesium inside and outside the cell. And the electromagnetic field influence the non-native EMFs, the foreign electromagnetic fields outside of the healthy ones that we produce ourselves and latch onto in nature. These alien electromagnetic fields introduce calcium ions. They flood the inside of the cell with abundant amounts of calcium, and this throws off the whole tissue integrity, the electrolyte balance. And it cascades into B12 changes, which facilitate the metabolic functions. We get these excess free radicals that damage the mitochondria in the cell. This is why it's so important to see how we protect the mitochondria, our energy, machines. And this is the focus of this lecture today, is that one of the ways we protect and maintain our energy is by protecting our mitochondria or helping our mitochondria repair. And this only happens when we can, shield or protect ourselves from this excess radiation that comes in. So this is a very unique dynamic. So we're showing you the science, the actual physiology that happens with this imbalance from the overexposure of these electromagnetic fields. The other thing that is so critical is, again, we're creatures of nature. We have to, realize that we've evolved for millennia, for thousands of years with the sun and the earth. So it's our connection to these dynamics that facilitate our health and well-being. So that morning sun it's the turn-on switch that facilitates the production of the melatonin that's going to be released at night to help us sleep. It's the production of the dopamine, the neurotransmitter that's used to give us energy during the day and feel good and be satiated, so that we don't get out of balance with addictive aspects that can kind of compensate for our emotional imbalances. And then at the height of the day, at the noon, the afternoon sun, this is when we interface with the ultraviolet light that is so dominant, and it's the ultraviolet B that facilitates the making of our vitamin D. And the vitamin D is so critical, not just for healthy bones and tissue, but there's hundreds of functions that the vitamin D facilitates. And today, one of the most important aspects is the ability to enhance the immune system. And that immunity is what's needed to counteract all the stressors, and especially the microbial stressors that we're exposed to today, the viruses and the bacteria. So it's like a self-vaccination that when we get out into the sun and we make our own vitamin D, that vitamin D is just so vital for our immune system today. So it gives us the ability to take away the stress that comes from these external environments, and that reduction of stress facilitates, it gives us more energy for our own happiness and our joy and our love of life. So understand that whole cycle of the sun facilitates different releases of the physiological mechanisms in the body, the release of the different unique signal molecules that the body uses. So anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Tina?
I thank you. You know what I like about this slide, and it's a great reminder for me that, in the morning, you look at the left and you see the beautiful yellows and reds and oranges. Our eyes need those colors in the morning to wake up and start that melatonin production. During the day, we have the blue light. And many of the things that we're exposed to, I should say, with the blue light technology is our computers and our TV screens. And so when the sun goes down over on the right, we should not have exposure to that blue light. That blue light needs to be blocked. And so there's some great blue light blockers if you're going to be watching TV and working on your computer to help block some of these blue lights, because your body still thinks you're awake. But at night when the sun is going down, you want those reds again, you want those oranges. All of that is what you should be taking in visually. And because of our culture, obviously that blue runs over into when the sun goes down. And a lot of that is interference. So there's ways that you can work with that and mediate that by having blue blockers to kind of help. What else can you do to support your energy production? First of all, take your TeloYouth. Very important to take your TeloYouth. Lifestyle, some of the things to do would be intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating. We talked about those dead cells being in the body, and when they're in the body and they're not moving out, they're stressors to the body. And when you do time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, it allows your body to do its own cleanup. It's that autophagy. And it's like being able to press the button on your self-cleaning oven, and next thing you know, you come back and all of the crud is all cleaned off from the inside of the oven. And that's what happens when we restrict the time that we eat. So we recommend, if this is new to you, think about not eating for 12 hours out of the day, and that's 0 calories. And then start to shorten that time down from 12 hours to 10 hours on another day, shorten it to 8 hours, and then try to get it to 6 hours. Because if you're not eating outside of that 6 hours, your body is going into that autophagy, that self-cleaning. And that's something that we can do every day to help support TeloYouth. When you do eat, make sure they're nutrient-dense meals, live foods. Stay away from the processed foods, all the white foods. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of good, pure water, and that the general guideline is half of your body weight in ounces on a daily basis. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you want about 75 ounces of good, pure, clean water. Dr. Chris, you want to talk about this breathing, the oxygen, the deep breathing?
Well, what the mitochondria use is electrons. I mean, there's an electron chain transport that facilitates. This is where energy beings first. And guess where those electrons come from? They come from the oxygen that we breathe. So it's so important that we facilitate the body's ability to absorb that oxygen, and healthy, strong lungs take in the oxygen, and the red blood cells grab it and take that oxygen to the cells, and the cells put it into the mitochondria, and the mitochondria facilitate this incredible transaction to make energy. So this is part of the whole energy process. And so we're showing you how the energy is available all around us. And the air we breathe, the importance of that oxygen, the light we receive from the sunshine, and how we tap into it throughout the day, and how important it is to just access it to facilitate your energy production, and to plug into the earth, and not with your tennis shoes, but barefoot. Find a way to get that connection so that you can plug into the electromagnetism of the planet itself, because it has its own frequency that we thrive with, and this is what we use to repair and regenerate at nighttime. So you see the oxygen and plugging into nature are so critical to our whole energy production cycle.
And it doesn't cost anything. It's wonderful. Next is the exercise. Now, when we're talking about exercise, one of the ways to really recharge your batteries, your mitochondria, is high intensity interval training. Check that out on the internet and do some more research on that. In other words, it's not about running a marathon. It's intense running a marathon, but it's a long intensity. What we want to do is get this short spurts of energy going. So if, let's say you have a stationary bike, for example, what you would do is you would, for the first few minutes, warm up, and then for 30 seconds, spin your feet as fast as you possibly can, and then go as light as you can for about 30 seconds. Then 30 seconds, high interval as fast as you can. And you want to do that. And that really does charge your batteries. And it's great for fat burn if that's something that you're looking for. If you want to go outside and run really fast and then walk, run, walk, or walk, run. You want to just make sure that you're getting intensity for a very short period of time, and then get your heart rate low again. And then Dr. Chris, you want to talk about the next one?
Sure. Actually, the last three on our chart, the exercise, the cryotherapy, the heat shock therapy, each one of these in medical terms are called hormetic, or they generate hormesis in the body. And all hormesis means is that it's healthy stress. So exercise, you don't overdo it, you just do it enough so that it's a healthy stressor. Cryotherapy is exposure to cold. This is like you'll take a good shower, clean up, and then the last 30 seconds, you'll turn on the cold and you know, turn off the hot and immerse yourself into the cold. And it stimulates the activation of so many different functions in the body, making more mitochondria, activating your immune system, just exercising all the different dynamics in the body to respond to this stressor. So it's not a lot of cold, but it's just enough to stimulate the body's ability to adapt the way we, you know, evolved over millennia, thousands of years. And then the heat shock proteins. These are another type of protein that we make, another signal molecule that comes from heat therapy versus cold therapy. And I know, Dr. Tina, you like those, you know, good warm baths with Epsom salts and things. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, anybody who has access to an infrared sauna or any kind of a sauna, that's great. Or just get into a really hot bath, as hot as you can possibly stand it, with Epsom salts, break a sweat, and then cool the water down. So it's really simple to do, and very, very therapeutic. So, but a lot of times you want to make sure that you're doing that early enough so that you can wind down as well, because sometimes you're gonna gain a lot of energy from that as well. So you might not be able to sleep real great at night. So all of these things.
Indian cultures really understood this when they do their saunas, and then they would go out and you know, jump in the snow, and they would do the, you know, heat therapy and cryotherapy all in the same time.
Right, and if you live in Minnesota, you could just go jump in a lake right now and you could get your cryotherapy if that's something you want to do, because it's so cold. They're saying that the water is about 50 degrees right now. So
I think it's important too, is that all of these, as you gradually adapt, you don't just immediately immerse yourself into these hormetic responses. It's like exercise. You gradually build up the intensity of your exercise activity. You just don't go out, you know, the first day and just do all this and break down the body. The cryotherapy is a gradual adjustment and adaptation. So the body adapts, you know, just to these stressors in a gradual way. And then that's the healthy approach.
right.
And it facilitates the adaptation. So as an athlete, you know, before you compete in sports, you go through a whole training process before you actually go into competition. And that's what you're doing with the body. You're training it to deal with cold. You're training it to deal with the stress of exercise. You're training it to deal with the heat. And all of these unique chemicals that we produce are what keep us younger and healthier and stronger. So we're increasing our energy potential and our protection. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this educational seminar, and that's what it is. It's not designed to give any medical advice. It's for educational purposes only, and you want to work closely with your health practitioner to help you understand how to work with these different recommendations that we're sharing with you today. So, Dr. Tina.
Thank you, everyone.